Who are some of the IDPs you need to know from the AFC and NFC East as we head into the 2025 season? In this episode of the IDP After Show, my special guest, Johny the Greek, is bringing along Patrick Harrington, also known as Tackleboxprops, to help us find out who are some players we need to know before our league mates do. Whether you're eyeing breakout stars, looking for some value, or just trying to stay ahead of your league, we've got you covered. All that and a lot more on this episode of the IDP After Show.
This is the IDP After Show.
I'm really excited to get into this episode for several reasons. Usually, we get the treat of only having just one guest on the show to do these previews, but in this episode, we get to hear the insight from two of the greatest minds in IDP industry, Johny the Greek and Patrick Harrington. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking your time and being on with the show tonight. How have you been?
I'm doing good. How about you? Good to be back talking football.
Yeah, good,
For
man.
sure.
Good to see it. Good to see it. It's been an off season. We're ready for the real thing.
So speaking of the AFC and the NFC East, we have a lot of very talented players in these two divisions, loaded with talent, looking for some insight here tonight. And so what we're going to be doing, this is the final seasonal division preview that we'll be doing. We already did the South, the North, and the West in previous episodes. So tonight we're going to tackle the East. And so looking at the players in the AFC East, we're going to start today by looking at the Buffalo Bills. So we did a coin flip before the show, and Johny, you won the coin toss. And who's your player?
Yeah. Lucky coin toss there. So big shock, big surprise. I'm going to go with a corner here. So anyone that's familiar with my work knows I love streaming corners. But within that world, there are a few guys that are like set and forget options. They're that good season in and season out. And Taron Johnson of the Bills is definitely one of those guys, listed as a cornerback in Yahoo, cornerback in my fantasy league, defensive back in Sleeper. His ADP is at 502 overall in Sleeper. So that's like 19th round, 17th round, somewhere around there. That's what I've been getting him in these recent IDP only drafts we've been doing. He's got a fantastic streaming schedule. That's something we look at in cornerback land. Who are you going up against, right? Is it a good passing attack? He's got Miami on the schedule, KC, Tampa Bay, Houston, Cincinnati. He is a consistent producer. Like I said, one of the very few set and forget options at corner for IDP land. He's got a 65 PFF overall, 61 coverage grade, and a 76 run defense grade. That is all either green or blue if you play all 22. So short version, no worries about him losing his job, demotions, displacement, any of that stuff, which is a problem with cornerbacks, but not for Taron Johnson. He's been a starter since 2021. He did miss 5 games last season, but has started at least 15 games in 2022, 2021. He's had seasons of 98 combined tackles at corner. That's wild. 94 combined tackles and 90 combined tackles. So an absolute tackle monster. Last season, even with missing 5 games, he had 65 combined tackles at 5.4 combined tackles per game with a whole bunch of other stats, right? A sack, a tackle for loss, forced fumble, 5 pass defense, 1 interception return touchdown, another 2 interceptions. So you're getting the tackle floor plus the big plays. He is a consistent producer, and he is a safe cornerback option. And that makes him worth his weight in gold in IDP leagues where you have to start a cornerback. So that's why I chose Taron Johnson.
I love this call, Johny, just because like Buffalo is always going to be playing with the lead. They're an explosive offensive team. Opposing teams are going to have to throw to keep up with them. And like you said, playing in that slot corners position with that sweet spot that we love, just always racking up tackles. It's crazy that he's already been in the league for 7 years because he doesn't seem that he's been in the league this long. But like you said, just consistent week in and week out. He's not going to give you a goose egg. So not shocked that you started with a cornerback, but we'll play the over-under game, how many you have throughout the show tonight. So we'll go from there.
Yeah, to add to it, he was 8th overall in tackle rate amongst cornerbacks. He only had a 10% missed tackle rate, which is pretty good compared to a lot of players out there. He's typically at 90% of the snaps or more. And he gets box snaps, right? He's not just in the slot. He gets looking back at last year, 10 to 20 box snaps per game. So you got to love that for tackles.
So kind of transitioning. So Patrick, who do you have? You're kind of going with the opposite end here. You're going from the back end of the defense to the front end of the defense. Who's your Bills player you're pretty excited about this season?
I am going to go with Greg Rousseau. I've been on the Rousseau train for several years now, and it's been a pretty mediocre ride, for being honest about things. But he's done enough to keep me on board for another year here. He played a career-high 860 snaps last season. Buffalo only added Joey Bosa and Michael Hoyt this offseason, one of them which is hurt more often than he plays, and the other has a 6-game suspension for PEDs. So I would expect that there'll be another 860 snaps for Rousseau this year. Over the past 3 seasons, he has defensive grades of 83.6, 85.6, and 83.1 per PFF. And he's improved on his total pressures every single year that he's been in the league. Last year, he finished with 63 pressures on the season, which was tied for 10th most among edge players. If he continues this upward trajectory, a double-digit sack season could be in the cards for him. On top of the sacks, he totaled 53 tackles last season, which put him in the top 5 in total tackles for edge players. So the tackle floor is there for him. You'll likely have to pay a DL2 price for him, but with the sack upside and the tackle floor, I have no problem taking him in that mid DL2 range.
Yeah, another great call here. Just like you said, that tackle floor really increases his value, I think, just because you're not going to be feast or famine. You know, a lot of these edge players, it's like all or nothing weeks. They're either going to get you a sack or you're going to get a goose egg. With Rousseau, he's got such a high tackle floor, and he's had that high tackle floor for a couple seasons now. So his value is kind of insulated in that regards. You know, looking back at last season, he had a 30-burger game, which is always nice to see. A couple 20s. You know, those are week winning games right there, just from that one position. So like you said, Patrick, you're going to have to pay up for him, but I think the value is there. And if you can pair him up with like a high upside, like, you know, type play, I think you're building your roster construction really well there. So Johnny, got anything to add about Mr. Rousseau before we get on to the Miami Dolphins?
Yeah, cosign. I like Rousseau quite a bit. And with that playing time, that is just such a huge key, because it's like there are those outliers, those Max Crosby guys that get like, you know, 85, 90, 95% of snaps, but they are few and far between. And with Rousseau playing that much, he's going to luck into production, you know, just to begin with. And then you've got that great tackle floor and the upside with the splash plays. So yes, very big fan.
All right, going to head down to South Beach here. Mr. Johnny, who you got for your player for the Miami Dolphins? Shocking, it is not a defensive back. So.
No, it's Zach Sieler. I love this guy, man. And in full disclosure, I am a Yahoo guy, right? I prefer my Yahoo redraft. That doesn't mean I'm not in 20 dynasty leagues. I am, but I love Yahoo redraft, right? And he is a DT/DE in Yahoo this year. And when the bye weeks come, when the injuries come, when the shenanigans comes, that is worth its weight in gold, right? Putting him either at defensive end or defensive tackle is just such a huge advantage when we get to the slog of the season. Plus, you're getting an excellent player, an excellent producer, a consistent, reliable option on top of that. So it's all good here, right? His ADP is currently 334 in sleeper right now. So you're getting him in like the 7th, 8th round, somewhere around there for these all IDP drafts. I got him recently in the 5th. So it looks like people are catching on a little bit. Like I mentioned, the dual designation in Yahoo is huge. That's great flexibility for bye weeks, injury replacement, etc. You don't have to worry about him losing his job with his 78 overall PFF, 71 pass rush grade, and 69 nice run defense grade. That is green times 3. That is good stuff right there. He's had 10 sacks each of the last 2 seasons, 10 plus sacks. And then the season prior, he had 70 combined tackles, right? So that's 3 seasons in a row. You're getting the points, you know, in slightly different ways, but he's been a producer, you know, solid producer for 3+ years now. So that's great. I like to see that. I don't care how you get the points, as long as you get the points. He's been a starter since 2022. He's only missed 2 games last season, but otherwise no injury concerns whatsoever. And then last season, even missing those 2 games, he had 55 combined tackles. That's a great tackle floor, 10 sacks, 13 tackles for loss, and 19 QB hits. So that is fantastic. And just the flexibility for my preferred kind of league site, Yahoo, is really what pushed me towards him. But you're getting a solid, great option regardless. So that's kind of why I took him.
And I love the idea here, especially if you play in a defensive tackle league. Like, he is such an underrated asset. you'll get your big names that go off the board at defensive tackle required leagues. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, Zach Sieler is still there and available for me. Like even in a league where you don't maybe play in a defensive tackle league, he's still a super safe option. Like you said, John, he's like that super high floor with the tackles. He gets it done with the sacks, and he's been healthy. And that's very uncommon in Miami's front seven, that they're able to stay healthy. So that might be a really good segue over here to Patrick's pick for the Miami Dolphins. So
yeah, I'm going out on a limb here, and I'm going to go with Jaelan Phillips. Obviously, the biggest concern is the back-to-back years of pretty substantial injuries, torn Achilles 2 years ago and partial tear of the ACL last year. But as of right now, Phillips is listed as DL 49 on Fantasy Pros rankings. And at that price, I'm willing to take a chance on him. He's shown throughout his career, when healthy, elite tackle numbers for an edge player. He's totaled 104 tackles in 25 games across 2022 and 2023. So that would put him in the elite of the position for tackles. On top of the tackle numbers, he appeared to be breaking out before his Achilles injury with 6.5 sacks through 8 games in 2022. Phillips is also entering a contract year this year, so he'll be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season, which should give him plenty of motivation to get back healthy and produce this year to get paid. So I think all that put together, I'm willing to take a chance on Phillips in that DL4, DL5 range and hope that he can come back healthy and have a DL2 type season for us, but we'll see.
I love the upside with this call, just because we just saw glimpses of greatness with him before the injury. And I think he was that guy that was coming out of college that only was playing the position for like a year or two. And so he was just really learning how to play the position, all the nuances. And then you could just see that development start to happen. Then he just, unfortunately, has gotten zapped by injuries. So I'm actually blaming the boys in the Socek for this one, because they got that jersey hanging up. So they just kind of jinxed them. So let's get that jersey down. Let's get him healthy, and let's have a season.
Right. And I love Patrick's point about everyone's forgotten about him. His ADP is way up there. No one remembers this guy. You're just taking a shot in the dark. So if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Whatever. We're going to add and drop 1 billion dudes this year. It just is what it is with the modern fantasy environment, right? So I am more than willing to take this risk, especially when you look at that 2023 season where he had that hot start. If you extrapolate that out, that's like an 86 combined tackle season plus in like 13 sacks. That is one heck of a ceiling for a guy no one's talking about that you can get for free right now.
And to kind of piggyback on that too, like looking at how talented all of a sudden this front seven could be for the Dolphins. You got like Zach Sieler is obviously going to be eating double teams in the middle. You got Chop Robinson, who was really coming on at the end of last season, playing opposite. Now all of a sudden, if you get a healthy Phillips back, like, not expecting the Dolphins to do a lot this season, but at least they're going to be competitive up front, and maybe offer a little some splash plays for us for these IDP plays. Moving on to the Patriots here, they've been kind of rebuilding ever since Belichick left, and one of those pieces, Johnny, who is one of those pieces you got going to kind of help them rebuild this year?
Oh, it's Harold Landry, man. I love Harold Landry, and it feels like the move has kind of thrown people for a loop a little bit, and they've forgotten who this guy is, because he is excellent. He is fantastic, and I am not much of a rookie guy myself, being more of a redraft player in general. So yeah, I want the guy that's done it before. I want the guy that I know it's possible, not just shot in the dark type deal. And that's Harold Landry, right? So he has a bad designation in Yahoo. He's a linebacker. So it's useless there. But in Sleeper, he's a DL, DE. He's a DE in my fantasy league, which is always nice. His ADP value, I was getting him in the 4th or the 5th in those IDP only drafts we've been doing this off season. So it's slightly expensive, 224 overall IDP and Sleeper. But here's the thing. This guy has played every single game except for the 2022 season, which he missed with ACL. Beyond that, he's played every game since 2019. So beyond that one injury plagued season, he is extremely reliable. He's also had 9+ sacks in every full season he's played in since 2021. He's had, last year, he had 71 combined tackles, 9 sacks, 15 tackles for loss, whole bunch of QB hits, and some pass defense in Tennessee. And he's going to be the best pass rush option in New England and should play an absolute ton. I mean, yeah, he's going to get double teamed a bit, but we also got to remember this is not Vrabel's first rodeo. He knows how to free guys up defensively. This is a reliable option with great consistency and pretty good price that is going to be a really good option for you this season.
Yeah, and Harold Landry's 2 best seasons came under who was a head coach? Mike Vrabel.
Yeah,
right. Back with him. So in both those seasons were double-digit sack totals. Both of them were over 70 tackles. And I feel like I end up with Harold Landry on my teams every year because he always seems like a value. He goes in that whatever defensive lineman 20 range, and he always produces a top 20 season. So.
Oh, my bad. He is dual designated and sleeper. That is another reason why this is important, right? Like when things get crazy, when the injuries start happening, when the shenanigans starts happening, you can plug him in at linebacker or defensive line. That is huge, especially in those IDP best balls we've been doing, where you get that cross positional coverage. That is just such an important thing.
And the big thing here, like you had kind of alluded to Johnny, about the tackle numbers, such a high tackle floor, not just sack dependent, which he's been really good with, but dating back to 2019, he's at 68, 69, 74, 69, and 71 tackles. Talk about a model of consistency. Like if you're getting Landry as your DL2, like that's just a great foundation to build around. You know, you're not going to get a goose egg. You're not going to be left with like just scrambling for points at a position. And like you said, outside of Landry, I don't think there is many Patriot defensive players that I'm really interested in, except for Patrick's guy that he's going to be talking about right here. So.
Well, I wanted to talk about Harold Landry, but
you can talk about Harold Landry.
No, Johnny stole him from me first, so I'll let him have him. And I'm going to go with Robert Spillane. Spillane's totaled 306 combined tackles over the last 2 seasons for the Raiders, and now will man the middle for the Patriots this season. He's been about as dependable as you can get over the last 2 years. Played 100% of all the snaps in every game but 3. Those were like 80% of the snaps, while maintaining a tackle rate that was just shy of 14%. Patriots linebackers haven't been the most fruitful for fantasy purposes over the last several years, but I'm pretty hopeful that Spillane can change that under Mike Vrabel. In Vrabel's last season, coaching Tennessee, Azeez Al-Shaair was able to record 163 total tackles, so I don't see any reason that Spillane can't keep chugging along with his 140, 150 tackles that he's been getting the last couple of years. I'm not really sure that I'd consider him a huge value in drafts because he's kind of going at the end of LB1, start of LB2 type player. But if I can get him as my LB2, I'm certainly happy with that. I just think he's probably valued appropriately right where he's at. And I don't trust any other Patriots defenders, so we'll go with Spillane.
Talk about like a blue collar, like just lunch pail kind of guy too. You know, like he's on his 4th team, just passed around his first couple of seasons, Tennessee to Pittsburgh, and he finally got a little bit of a run in Pittsburgh with some injuries there, and then all of a sudden went to Vegas and just kind of blew up. You know, he just like, it's hard not to root for a guy like that. Now he's on a team with a head coach that's super defensive minded. And I can just see really good things for Spillane. And like you said, Patrick, I just think you're probably drafting appropriately, but you're also going to have such a high floor. Like it's a super safe pick. So
yep.
Yeah, you're getting what you pay for here. And, you know, the splash plays are a little under the radar for him, too. He's had 5 picks the last 2 years combined, 11 plus pass defense the last 2 seasons, 5.5 sacks the last 2 seasons combined. Like that's really good beyond the tackle floor you're getting, which is already spectacular.
Yep. I think in one of my home leagues, he was like linebacker 3 last year in points. So the upside is definitely there, but I think that linebacker 10 to 12 range is probably pretty appropriate.
All right. We have one team left in the AFC East. It's the Jets. And so we've got new head coaching staff, new, pretty much a new everything for the Jets. So looking at it from a defensive IDP standpoint, Johnny, who's a player you're kind of excited about for 2025?
Oh man, seeing your IDP minute today brought joy to my heart because I have been loading up on this guy because everyone has forgotten that he exists and doesn't remember, a season plus ago. Jermaine Johnson, who is just the defensive end in my fantasy league, but he's dual designated in Yahoo and he's dual designated in Sleeper, which is awesome. He did miss every game from week 2 onwards last year with a torn Achilles. But he's cleared to return as of today, off the PUP today. So he's going to be ready by week 1. At an ADP value of 519 in Sleeper, that essentially translates to I got him in the 12th round, 14th round, and 15th round in 3 recent IDP only drafts, right? So way at the end when you're just backfilling guys. We've got Will McDonald on his way up with his ascension. We got Quinnen, who gets double teamed all the time. And we've got a huge discount on a guy that's had excellent production just a season plus removed. Beyond that injured season last year, the one before was spectacular, right? Plus, he's got all that dual eligibility. So the season before his Achilles injury, he played and started all 17 games, had 55 combined tackles, 7.5 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, 16 QB hits, and then a whole bunch of pass defense, a pick, an interception, return, touchdown. Just fantastic production. He was on his way up. He was one of the next great kind of studs at the position. And then that injury last year just took him out and took him off everyone's radar. But he's back and he costs nothing. So sign me up.
Yeah, for your famous for the price of a mouse click, right now he could be yours. Like it's legit, like 30% rostership in sleeper leagues right now. Like now's the time, get in on the curve. So.
Yep, and just like Jaelan Phillips, I feel like with Jermaine Johnson, if you draft him, you're drafting him at the end of your drafts, and maybe if you can hold on to him for a bit, suffer through some possible poor production just as they kind of ramp up activity. But halfway through the season, if they haven't shown anything, then it's just cut bait and move on to something else.
I think that's a perfect mentality too, because with a player like Johnson, with a player like Phillips, you're probably not going to roll them out right away in the season. You want to kind of see how they do and have them come along, but they'll probably just start really getting healthy, really get back into football shape right when those bye weeks start for your teams. And what better time to roll them out, like when you're, week 4, week 5, those bye weeks start, Johnson and Phillips both have like a month under their belt. You start to see a little bit from production, and like you said, Patrick, if they don't do anything, cut bait and move on to the next big thing. So Johnny kind of teased out yours here, Patrick. Who you got for the Jets?
I am going to go on the other side with Will McDonald. In his rookie season, he only played 184 snaps, but he was still able to tally 3 sacks. Last year, he followed that up with 758 snaps. He was tied for 13th most pressures among edge players with 61, and he converted those pressures into 10.5 sacks. Those 758 snaps were good for 21st most by all edge players. The Jets' only additions to the edge room were Rashad Weaver and 5th-round pick Tyler Barron, neither of which figure to push McDonald for snaps. They also get Jermaine Johnson back, but they lose Hassan Reddick. The biggest downside here is the tackle numbers, which were pretty bad last year, as he only finished with 28 total tackles and a very poor 34.4% missed tackle rate, which earned him a 28.7 tackle grade from PFF. This probably makes him better suited for best ball, but as a rookie, he did have a little bit better tackle numbers and tackle grade at 59.8. So I think there's maybe some hope for improvement in that department. Vegas has his sack line set at 8.5, which is the same as players like Jared Verse, Greg Rousseau, and Alex Highsmith, all of which are going as DL2s in drafts right now, or better. Verse would be a DL1. And you can grab McDonald as a DL4, possibly DL5, and hopefully return some profit on that pick if you can continue getting those sack numbers.
I had to laugh a little bit, Patrick, when you said that they lost
Hassan Reddick. Yeah.
Hassan Reddick. Can you lose what you never had? Can you really lose what you never had? I mean, hopefully he turns it around in Tampa, but yeah.
That wasn't actually in my notes. I just added that. So.
Oh, okay. All right.
Nice touch.
No, I like this call. I do like the Aaron Glenn defense there in New York. I think that he's a very defensive minded coach. Obviously, did great things with Detroit. Now that he has his own team to kind of run ship, I think that he's getting the pieces and players. We might be a season or two away from like truly having all the pieces and parts that he wants. But obviously McDonald is one of those building pieces as they brought him in. So I like that call a lot.
Yeah, he's cheap too. He's cheap. Patrick nailed this, man. I couldn't believe how late he was going in some of these IDP only drafts. And this is a guy. I mean, we saw the jump from his rookie season to last year. Even if we have a mini jump from that this year, that is fantastic production for a very low price.
All right, now that we've wrapped up the AFC East, we're going to jump over to the NFC East, and I kind of put this off as long as we could. But so, Johnny, we're going to jump into your Dallas Cowboys here for a little bit. And I know that right now there's a little bit of stuff going on in Dallas world, Jerry world. He's got his YouTube show or Netflix show coming out in a couple days. And so there's some speculation that maybe, they're going to sign Parsons here and maybe make a splash. So that can kind of up the ratings. You got CeeDee Lamb getting tackled by officials on the sideline in games and getting flags for it. So, there's a lot. So first of all, Johnny, what are you thinking? Is Parsons, is he playing week 1 for the Cowboys?
Yep. This will get done just like it got done with Zeke. Same situation, same amount of shenanigans, same bad blood, same thing with CeeDee Lamb, same thing with Dak. We've seen this movie before. We know how it ends. But the thing that drives me crazy is, why are we doing this in the first place? Why are we pissing off our best players in the first place when we know how this is going to end? They're going to sign the deal. And every time Jerry waits on these things, it gets more expensive and he's just costing himself money. If we had done this before Myles Garrett, it would have cost us a lot less than it's going to now. So it's just Jerry being cheap and being an a-hole, and it hurts us every single time. And I can't stand it. I wish he would just retire or something.
Whew. Heated. So do you think it gets done this week?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that. Okay. You should ask Patrick this too. He's also a less well-known Cowboys fan, but he is a Cowboys fan.
I just echo your exact same thoughts.
I just worry about players who hold in or hold out in camp and then come in, and then we've seen it so many times where they get dinged up or they miss time. Like I know right now Parsons has a back injury, but I think that's maybe because his wallet's pretty empty and it's just not counterbalanced really well. You get a little money in that back pocket, things kind of straighten out with your back. But, I just worry about players holding out. We've seen it so many times where they just come in and they get hurt, and then they're, just the longer this drags out, I don't think it's a good thing for Parsons like season. So
yeah, I'm with you on that. And just to talk a little dirty offense for a minute, same thing with Matt Stafford. He just started practicing like today or whatever, right? Like if I was a Stafford owner, I'd be worried. But preseason and training camp exist for a reason. So that when we get to the regular season, you don't get hurt. You know what you're doing. It feels natural. You're not just going from 0 to 60 like Parsons is going to be doing. And that's not a good thing.
And that's such a great point too, Johnny, just because you look at these players, like the 17-game season is a grind anyway. We're going to deal with injuries all season long. I don't like to start my teams with players being injured because I already have to deal with it for 17 weeks. I don't want to deal with it for the 4 weeks going into the season because that just makes it even tougher to make, like roster cuts or decisions on who to draft, who to trade. So Patrick, anything to add on the Cowboy conundrum before we get into these players?
No, I mean, it's the same old circus every year. So I don't think there's anything to talk about that hasn't already been said.
It's the best male soap opera out there, right?
Oh,
exactly.
Yeah. Not really.
No,
not for Cowboy fans, but
not for us. Not for us. No,
for everybody else.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about some players who are on roster, who are showing up to camp. Johnny, who's your Dallas Cowboy player that you do like for this year from an IDP perspective?
Yeah, this is a deep one. This is a weird one. A lot of people are going to scratch their heads at this, but if you're a degenerate like myself and you play in DT specific leagues, with more than one slot. This guy is fantastic. Osa Odighizuwa. I think I got that. So he's a defensive tackle / DL everywhere, right? DL and sleeper, DT most everywhere else. 605 overall ADP and sleeper, which means undrafted. He was undrafted in every IDP only draft I've done so far this year, except for me. I drafted him at the end. So dirt cheap, right? 68.1 overall PFF, 78.5 pass rush grade. That's blue ×2. So he's not losing his job anytime soon. The run defense grade is only 50.8, but that's average. That's fine. He has played and started all 17 games the last 3 years consecutively. How many players do we know that have done that, right? In the modern NFL, that's not really a thing anymore. So he is not an injury concern. He's reliable, consistent option. Last year, he had 47 combined tackles, 4.5 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. Not exactly eye-watering, right? But he also had 23 QB hits last season, and that tells me that he left a ton of meat on the bone, right? He was that close to a handful more sacks. And if that's 7.5, 8.5 sacks instead of 4.5, then we're talking about him in a much different vein than we are right now, right? But regardless, this is a reliable option at defensive tackle for those deeper leagues that left a bunch of meat on the bone last season. And it is a candidate for positive regression that you can get for nothing right now. So that's why I'm a fan.
Johnny, were you in any of the D-up drafts?
No, it's not. It's not in Connecticut, unfortunately.
So no wonder he went. No wonder he went 0% rostered in any of the. You would have had that one share. You would have been that one share. So.
Yep.
He also just got a new contract extension this offseason. And the rest of the Dallas interior line is not great. So he'll be out there. He played a career high, I believe, last year in snaps at 860. So they're going to need him. So he's going to be on the field.
Yeah, they got if they can get Parsons on that team, they got Mike Woolard's favorite guy,
Ezerique.
Donovan
Ezerique,
yeah, pushing on the outside. That's gonna be some. Yeah, they got some talent on that team. So
yeah, I'll believe it when I see it.
Wow, not even the kickoff, and we're already pretty pessimistic about the season. So.
You can only go so many years in a row being optimistic before you just.
I'm
pessimistic.
This is true. And it always throws people for a loop because I call myself a realist Cowboys fan, right? So I'm already depressed. We haven't started the season yet. And people are like, what? You're not going to say, how about them boys? I'm like, no, dude. I've been watching football since I was 5. I know how this is going to go.
Yep.
So Patrick, before you get to your player, before the show, Johnny and I were kind of going back and forth, and being a Packer fan, like it's the Packer Bear rivalry. That's like the biggest games of the year and stuff like that. So for you, who is like the big game the Cowboys play? Who is that?
Well, it used to be the Redskins for me because I had a buddy growing up that was a Redskins fan. So that was always the big rivalry for me. But as of late, I'd say it's the Eagles. Gotta hate the Eagles.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Fair enough. We all have those rivalries, and they stem from many different reasons. Johnny was talking about like growing up with like his dad had an irrational like hatred towards the Giants for no reason at all, and then like now all of a sudden like why the Giants? But like so pretty much covered everyone in the division between your stories. So
I can't hate the Giants because I feel like we win 2 games against them every year and then lose to everybody else. So.
Right. And they prevented the perfect Patriots season in 2007. So I really can't hate them.
True.
So Patrick, who's a player for the Cowboys that you do like, I guess, since you've kind of poo-pooed on everybody else on their roster. So who's somebody you like?
There is not many, but I'm going to go with a deep dive here and take Jack Sanborn. As of right now, it's looking like he'll start the year wearing the green dot for the Cowboys defense. He's quite an intriguing player. He's never really had an extended opportunity to be a full-time player, but that has the potential to change this year. He has only played greater than 80% of snaps in a game 7 times throughout his career. But in those 7 games, he averaged 10.1 tackles per game. He also owns a career tackle rate of 16.7%, which puts him in elite company, albeit in small sample size. The obvious risk here would be playing time, and that risk gets even higher when DeMarvion Overshown comes back from injury, but we don't really know when that's going to be. Last I heard, they were saying around Thanksgiving, but who knows? And it appears he has a leg up on the rest of the linebacker room right now, with a little bit of experience in Matt Eberflus's system. So on Fantasy Pros, he is listed as linebacker 47, which is pretty cheap if he can hold that starting job down all season. And let's be honest, he doesn't have a ton of competition, a ton of proven competition. You know, Maris Leofau, Damone Clark, they're both having great training camps, like they always say, right? But I think it'll be Sanborn and Kenneth Murray to start the year, and we'll see what happens when Overshown comes back.
Yeah, I love the call with him wearing the green dot. He's like a free space right now with, you know, being really familiar with Eberflus's defense. I think you teased it out perfectly when, like, what happens when Overshown comes back? Does he just take the job and get a stranglehold? And it's probably more just as a worrisome with Murray losing that job when Overshown comes back as is Sanborn. So, you know, can't have nice things. You just can't have nice things in Dallas. So,
yeah, no, I love this. Even if we get only till Thanksgiving, that is essentially a dirt cheap 3-down linebacker until Thanksgiving. Sign me up for that any day of the week and twice on Sunday.
all right, switching Johnny now to your hated New York Giants team. Who is a player that you're kind of excited about in 2025?
I'm going to give you a boring answer. It's Brian Burns. I've always liked Brian Burns. Old, reliable. You're getting about 8 sacks a year, no matter what. And I'll take that at the price. Absolutely. So he's a defensive end in most places. In sleeper, I believe he's a linebacker defensive line. I could be wrong on that, but regardless, he's a defensive end, right? His ADP is about right. It's about the 3rd round in many IDP only drafts. That's where I've been getting him. PFF is not a concern. 78 overall, 82 pass rush grade. So he's not going anywhere. He's on an absolutely loaded, insane defensive line that's going to give people nightmares all season. So, you know, double teaming him is not going to be as easy as it used to be when he was on Carolina, right? He started every game since 2021. So he's extremely reliable. He's had 8+ sacks a season since 2020. He had 71 combined tackles, 8.5 sacks, 18 QB hits, 17 tackles for loss last season, along with a bunch of other forced fumbles and pass defense and whatnot. So you're getting fantastic, consistent production and reliability, and likely also fewer double teams this year with the addition of Abdul Carter, plus the already insane, scary, loaded defensive line that has Kayvon and Dexter Lawrence and all that. So I think the you know, you're getting what you pay for here at the 3rd round IDP only price. And it's a guy you don't have to worry about. You can literally just set and forget him all season. You'll be good to go.
Another one.
Yeah,
of my
sometimes
favorites.
boring is the right answer, Johnny. Like, don't overthink it. You know, just he's got a great, deep, talented line to play along. Dexter Lawrence is like taking on double, triple teams. You've got an embarrassment of riches at the defensive end position. You know, just fresh rotation coming at you. So yeah, I love Burns this season, and he's probably going to be out there a majority of the time, whereas Thibodeau and Carter are probably going to be the ones kind of cannibalizing each other's snaps. So.
And on top of that, I just read that they've been lining Abdul Carter up at the 3 tech to get all 3 of them on the field at the same time. So I'm sure that's a heavy pass rush package that they got going on.
Isn't that a NASCAR package? Is that the NASCAR package they always talk about?
Probably. And I mean, Burns is one of my favorites. I drafted him in my big home dynasty league as a rookie, and I've just been plugging him into my lineup ever since. Another pretty high floor tackle guy at the edge. So, and he was tied for 13th with 61 pressures last year per PFF. So just automatic 8 to 10 sacks, 55 tackles every year.
Yep.
More than that even.
Boring is good. Boring is good.
Oh yeah.
All right. So hopefully a player that's not just boring and just getting tackles this season, but maybe can do a little splash play this year. That'd be kind of nice out of this player. Patrick, who do you got?
I took Tyler Nubin. There was a lot to like about Nubin's rookie season. Firstly, he finished with 98 tackles and only played in 13 games. Per PFF, he finished fourth in tackle rate amongst safeties with 12.2%, just ahead of guys like Brian Branch, Josh Metellus, Nick Cross. The real intrigue for me here is that it appeared at the end of last season that Nubin got more involved in the box as the season rolled on. In his first 6 games last year, he averaged only 16.3 box snaps per game. And in those games, he was averaging 6.5 tackles per game with a 10.8% tackle rate. Over the next 6 games, not including the game that he got injured in to end the year, they shifted him more into a box heavy role, and he was averaging 32.3 box snaps per game. And in that stretch, he averaged 9 tackles per game and had a tackle rate of 13.6%. So if that continues into this season, I would think we're in for a pretty good season out of Mr. Nubin. And I don't foresee that changing much. They brought in Jevin Holland to play alongside of him. I would assume Holland will be more of the deep safety guy. So Nubin's going kind of in that late DB1, early DB2 range. And I mean, I'm more than happy on waiting and grabbing him as my DB1 and focusing on other positions before all the stud DBs go off the board.
Such a super deep position. It's like more reason just to fade the position. Don't be the first one to take a defensive back, because there's just so many, especially with today's NFL offenses, and it's just so pass happy that it just makes sense that there's more defensive backs on the field trying to stop these plays. And there is probably no true strong or free safety anymore. They have to be interchangeable. And we look at all the PFF metrics and we can see how many box snaps they play or how many deep snaps they play, and it's probably more closer than it was years ago, because like when we grew up watching football, it was like there was a true high safety and then there was that strong safety guy, like the Steve Atwaters and stuff like that. They weren't playing center field. They were an extra linebacker. So
yeah, no, I love this too. And yeah, like you said, where he was lining up towards the end of the year, if we start this season with that, then wow, we are looking good. Even without that, 6.5 combined tackles per game was pretty good for him to start out. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I don't think the Giants offense is going to be the greatest show on turf this season. So I a lot of defensive snaps incoming.
All right, switching to a team that's probably going to be pretty good offensively, the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
And good thing you're probably sitting down, because shocking, Johnny has a defensive back he wants to talk about.
Yeah, everyone loves this guy though, right? Cooper DeJean, baby. So he's a cornerback basically everywhere. He's a defensive back and sleeper. So the slot is kind of his base role. But the training camp news we keep hearing about this guy just makes it sound better and better all the time. So recent training camp news indicated that he'll become an outside corner across from Kenyon Mitchell in the 2 cornerback sets, right? So that's, when he used to be going off the field, he's staying now as a wide corner. So that's extra snaps we weren't seeing last year. And then Vic Fangio said that he's going to get some safety snaps as well, right? And anytime you can get safety snaps as a corner, that's like a cheat code type deal. So that's fantastic. The PFF is great, 82.7 overall, 79.3 for coverage grade, 90.8 for run defense grade. So, he'll be on the field as a 3-down guy, I would think. It took him a little bit to get going last year, right? Not until about week 6 did he finally get the playing time we were looking for. But from that point onward, he was at 4.5 combined tackles per game. He also, in that stretch from week 6 to 17, had half a sack, a forced fumble, some fumble recoveries, some pass defenses. Once he got the playing time, the production really took off. and he's going to be starting with that this year. So he's starting this season with that great playing time in a role that allows him to line up all over the place. And we've seen how that looks in IDP land, right? Guys like Derwin that get to do that, their box score is always just stuffed to the brim. And it's a beautiful thing for us with the IDP points. So yeah, I think we're going to get a good deal more run defense tackles this year, tackles for loss this year, opportunity for more splash plays with playing those safety snaps. And that's all in a guy that you can just toss into your cornerback slot. And that is a fantastic thing. So sign me up for all the Cooper DeJean this year.
One of my big things is always talking about cheat code guys, and this is one of those cheat code guys. Anytime you can get like that positional advantage with a player, like whether they're returning punts or they're getting extra box snaps or just kind of getting more opportunity, like this is one of those like cheat codes. Like, yes, throw him in your cornerback spot and he's not going to be a corner. He's going to be all over the field doing all these things. So, yeah, cheat codes.
You guys added everything that I had to talk about in my notes for DeJean, so I'll just say go Hawkeyes. It was a sad day when he went to the Eagles.
Yeah, somewhere Eric Harms is smiling right now, so he's sitting back smiling right now. So,
right on.
Well, let's making me happy here since we're not talking about Hawkeyes. Let's talk about another Badger or a former Badger. So, Patrick, who do you got as your player for the Eagles that you want to talk about?
This one was a tough one for me to decide because I didn't want to go with a big name, but in the end, I just decided to go with the big name. I'm going to take Zack Baun, who broke out in a big way last season in Vic Fangio's defense, and I don't really see any reason for him to slow down this year. He ended last season with 151 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, and an interception, all on just 939 snaps. He played the least amount of snaps among all linebackers that finished in the top 10 of scoring last year, and only him and Fred Warner were the only two that played under 1,000 snaps. So I guess even if there's some regression on some of those counting stats that he excelled in last year, he could totally make up for that with seeing more snaps on the field. Baun was elite in coverage last season, received a 91.7 coverage grade and a 90.1 overall grade from PFF. According to Fantasy Pros rankings, he's currently listed as LB5. Obviously, there's not a ton of room for profit at that price, but I'm pretty confident saying that he'll finish the season as an LB1. And I have him ranked as my LB2, only behind Zaire Franklin heading into the season. So
I don't think this time last year anyone saw this coming. This probably wasn't anyone's conversation that Zack Baun is going to be ranked where he's at going into the season because he had just been so miscast with the Saints, and then all of a sudden like Fangio brings him in and, this time last year, he just started a little bit of rumbling during training camp and preseason stuff, but no one expected this breakout that he had. And, now he's in the conversation to be, is he going to be the LB1 again this season? He's probably, like you said, Patrick, he's going to finish a linebacker 1, but does he have potential to be the 1 at the end of the season? And so, yeah, like you said, it's not just tackles, it's sacks, it's interception. He's great in coverage, so he's not coming off the field, and just keep chasing that volume. So,
yeah, Jeff, you made the point I was looking for there. Great in coverage. How often do you see, a coverage grade that good at an inside linebacker like that? Like that is a fantastic grade. So he's staying on the field, and that is becoming a harder and harder thing to find these days. So yeah, he's worth his weight in gold for sure.
On to our final team. We got the Washington Commanders. And so, Johnny, who's your player? Shocking.
Yeah,
it's position, but who you got here is your guy?
It's another corner. It's a side effect from my main work, so to speak. But it's a great one. Mike Sainristil, right? So he's a corner everywhere, defensive back in sleeper. He's at 425 ADP overall in sleeper, so he's not going to cost you a ton. He has a great schedule to go up against for cornerback production, including Dallas, who loves to pass and pass to the wrong team often. The Chargers, Chicago, KC, Seattle, Detroit, Miami, Denver, Minnesota. Fantastic schedule for streaming corner this year. He's got a 66 overall PFF, 64 coverage grade. That's green times 2, so he's not going anywhere. He had a great position and role for production last year, and it looks to be a similar setup this season. So he started camp in the nickel slot. And with the addition of Jonathan Jones, he is now not needed on the outside, according to Dan Quinn. Second round pick Trey Amos gives them more depth at outside corner as well. So he's staying at the slot from everything I've read. And at 93 combined tackles, at 5.4 combined tackles per game last year, with 14 additional pass defense and a bunch of other stats, that is fantastic production, especially at cornerback. So yeah, like I was saying, this is one of the few set and forget guys that's out there. So, when you can find those in cornerback land, they are very, very valuable. So I like him quite a bit.
Yeah, I think this was one of those easy calls. And just because of like the production last year as a rookie, he gets a full year in the training camp, full year in the facility, the diet, the weight program, all of that good stuff. And now, year two, I don't see this Washington team having a scary front four this year. They lost a couple players in the offseason with some things, but I guess if you're considering bringing in, Von Miller, a big ripple, then I guess you're kind of in trouble. But I think their strength definitely is in their secondary. Like you said, they brought in Trey Amos. They already had Lattimore. I think that their strength is definitely in their secondary. Anytime you have Bobby Wagner, obviously he's a linebacker, but Father Time's undefeated for a reason. So
I had Sainristil 11th overall in tackle rate amongst corners last year, and really the majority of his snaps came at outside corner. He started at nickel, but I believe very quickly was moved outside last year for the most part. So I would think moving back into the nickel would provide him a lot more tackle opportunity. And like you said, I don't want to dip into my next player just yet, but the defensive line for Washington left me a lot to be desired when looking at who I was going to pick. So
do you think that might be a problem because they're going to have to cover so long? Like we often see the correlation between, elite defensive line, those corners getting turnovers because the quarterbacks are getting pressured. Looking at the Commanders' defensive front right now, we've got Dorrance Armstrong, Daron Payne, Javon Kinlaw, and Von Miller. Maybe their best pass rusher is Frankie Louvu, and he's a linebacker. So I don't expect Louvu to have the season that he did last year because those sacks are a hard metric to chase from season to season. But this front doesn't really scare me, I guess, unless I'm missing somebody here. So
I thought the same. And I think it can only help the cornerbacks, right? They got to cover longer, which just means I would assume the opposing quarterback has more time to find somebody open, give them more tackle opportunity rather than, can't get a tackle on an incomplete pass. So
it's true, but no big plays, no turnovers, or no pass breakups, no interceptions because they're going to be completed balls. They'll just get the tackle numbers. So
as long as we get production, I don't care.
Just want points. We just want points. All right, Patrick, who do you got to wrap up our 16th player of the night?
Well, for reasons we just discussed, I wasn't confident in Bobby Wagner at 35 years old, and I wasn't too confident in Frankie Louvu and not great tackle numbers. So I'm going to go with Will Harris. This one certainly isn't a flashy pick by any means, but I have some concerns with the whole defense. Will Harris was brought in this offseason, should slide into the Jeremy Chinn role from last year, a role that produced a top 20 DB finish for Chinn. I don't expect Harris to step right in and put up the same numbers as Chinn, but I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility either. Harris started 13 games for the Saints last season, and while his overall numbers weren't that impressive, there is some reason for optimism. After coming back from a hamstring injury in week 10, Harris started playing a much heavier box role for the Saints and averaged 7.3 tackles per game over those last 8 weeks. Right now, Harris is listed as DB 45 on Fantasy Pros rankings. So for the wait on DB crowd, Harris certainly seems like he can be an intriguing option towards the end of your drafts.
I love this call. I've talked about Harris a couple times on different shows, breakouts, sleepers, and stuff like that. And like you nailed it, Patrick. Like if you're waiting on defensive back, if you're getting a guy that's going to play every snap, probably if he's healthy. You know, Harris is a great cheat code. What do you get him as like a late defensive back 45, you said?
Yep.
Yeah, like that's free. That's free. So love that call.
Yep. No, I'm with you guys completely. Yeah. Anytime you can get a starter that's going to play every snap essentially for free. Yeah, you got to do it. Yep.
And especially at the defensive back spot, like we, you know, we've teased out a couple times about, you know, snaps and things like that. But in the end of the day, it's all volume for every single IDP player. Just, you can't score points unless you're on the field, and volume is king. And we've said it time and time again. And it's so true for especially these defensive backs, just because if you're not on the field or you're losing snaps because of certain rotations or alignment, it's going to hurt your production, and then you're just not a viable option. So for those of you that were scoring at home, Johnny had 8 players tonight, and 3 of them were defensive backs. And I kind of sensed the theme here, Johnny, that all 3 of them, all nickel back positional plays. So tell us a little bit about why the love for that position and spot.
Well, anyone that's read John Macri anytime in the last few years would understand that where these guys line up is a incredible predictor of IDP production, right? And those guys that have the slot snaps, the nickel snaps, the box snaps, it's a range thing, right? The closer you are to the action, the closer you are to the line of scrimmage and the ball being snapped, the easier it is to make plays, right? If you're 40 yards downfield as a single high safety, you're not getting involved in run defense, right? Usually not, unless it's like Saquon or something. So yeah, it is a common sense thing that just, you know, for whatever reason, it hasn't been highlighted enough in the IDP community. I mean, you know, IDP show's done a great job of it. Macri's done a great job of it, but this is absolutely something everyone should be paying attention to. If you got a PFF subscription, check those utilization metrics, find out where your guys are lining up, and take the guys that have those box snaps or those slot snaps, and it will lead to more production.
That's fantastic stuff. And like, so true. And just because you like looked at it over the last couple of years, you look at, you know, Trent McDuffie a couple seasons ago, he was kind of like, you know, one of the first guys that I kind of got bought in on that. And now, like, all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, you know, and this year, you know, we're looking at, you know, Gordon in Chicago kind of playing that same role. And, you know, it's such an easy position, just turn over from season to season, and you can just find the replacement value so readily there. So, well, fantastic stuff as always. I'm super excited about a lot of these players that you guys had both mentioned. So what are you guys working on right now, and where can the listeners find some more of your stuff? And got some bet stuff coming up here pretty soon, I hopefully, boys.
Yeah, Patrick, after you, take it away.
You can find me. I'm on Twitter at tackleboxprops, and doing work for RPO football again. So I'll be in the Discord all year posting my weekly picks. So, and I'll probably be on the IDP bet show 2 or 3 times again. I don't know. I haven't got the official invite, but.
Oh, it's coming. I just didn't want to badger you too early.
That's a pretty safe bet. I'm gonna take the over on that one. So you were like 90 for 90 last year, weren't you, Patrick, on your props? Like you nailed them all, right? Wasn't that what you got? Like
not quite.
Every single one of them, 1,000%.
Stupid Drew Tranquil got too many tackles in the Super Bowl to knock me under 80% for the year. So
it's funny you say that, because you nailed 80% of your bets or your props, but you talk about the one miss or whatever. Like, it's so easy to remember like that.
I know all my misses.
Yeah. Okay.
So. Yeah, no, he's solid, man. Patrick is the real deal at this. I'm an enthusiast, right? Like I'll do my research, I'll make my bets, but Vegas shanks me all the time. They don't get a chance with Patrick. He gets them first.
They capped his bets, I heard.
Well, yeah, they do that. You can find ways around it, though.
Oh, okay. We'll talk after the show. So, Patrick, you got anything more before you kick it over to Johnny? He's gonna get on his soapbox here for a little bit.
Nope. Go ahead, take it away, Johnny.
All right, thank you, sir. Yeah, you guys can find me at OrangeMan3142 on Twitter. I will be doing cornerback corner for the IDP show and IDP bets every Friday. I will absolutely have Patrick on as much as he's able to stand coming on as often as possible. at least 2 or 3 times. But no, yeah, we'll be back for that IDP bets this year every Friday. I believe that's on the All IDP. What's that stream called, Jeff? The new one.
I think you're right. I think it was All IDP.
Yeah. All IDP podcast stream through the IDP show. That's where that'll be at. I'll probably be doing like a one-off article for IDP Plus as well. But other than that, that's it. Just playing my leagues, enjoying the season, and looking forward to a good one.
And to be honest, you guys need to take a bow for all the work that you guys do throughout the season. You guys both put in a ton of time and just turn out fantastic work. Patrick with all the bets and all that you do, and Johny, the corner stuff, like the streaming stuff, you have saved countless seasons for many IDP players with, just the ridiculous accuracy that you have. I don't know if you sold your soul to the devil to get there, but we appreciate your hard work and your suntan after life. So
appreciate that.
All right. Well, that's officially going to do it for this episode of the IDP After Show. I'd like to thank both my guests, Johny and Patrick, for coming on tonight. And like I said before, if you aren't following both of them, do yourself a favor and do that. Not going to regret that at all. If you have a player that you think we overlooked, please make sure you share that in the comments. We really do love chatting football with you. Regardless, hits, misses, or home runs, we love talking. So make sure you hit us up in the comments. Before I leave you, if you aren't already doing so, please make sure that you hit that like and subscribe button. It does greatly help us out. Next time, you're all in for a treat. The Green Dot King himself, Mr. Mike Woolert, will be joining me as we talk about the crown jewel of IDP, the linebackers, and some of the expectations we have heading into the fantasy football season. Until then, for Johny and Patrick and myself, we say thank you for listening, and we'll catch up with you next time.
This was the IDP After Show.